Good evening. There have been several developments today regarding the Ethiopian Airlines crash and Boeing 737 MAX 8 airplanes. What you need to know: Canada, U.S. Reverse course, ground Boeing 737 MAX 8, MAX 9 aircraft after Ethiopian Airlines crash. Story continues below. Advertisement: Canada is reversing its position on the Boeing 737 MAX 8, as Transport Minister Marc Garneau announced today it was grounding the aircraft, including the MAX 9 variant. And after U.S. regulators and Boeing insisted the aircraft is safe, President Donald Trump said this afternoon that the United States is issuing an emergency order, effective immediately, to ground the MAX 8 and MAX 9. The moves come after dozens of countries grounded the planes following two fatal failures in the past 5 months involving MAX 8s, including the Ethiopian Airlines crash on Sunday that killed 157 passengers, including several Canadians. Air Canada said today that its customers should expect delays in rebooking flights as it complies with Ottawa's order, and it will grant affected customers a full fee waiver. Do you need to rebook your flight? How to find out if you were flying on a 737 MAX 8. As the investigation into the latest crash continues, Ethiopian Airlines has decided to send the black box to Europe for analysis, rather than to the United States where the plane was manufactured. This is the Daily Evening Update newsletter. If you're reading this on the web, or it was forwarded to you from someone else, you can sign up for Evening Update and more than 20 more Globe newsletters on our newsletter sign-up page. Liberals shut down SNC Justice Committee meeting, preventing vote on recalling Jody Wilson-Raybould. Liberal MPs used their majority on the House of Commons Justice Committee to shut down an emergency meeting that was called today to consider hearing further testimony from former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould. Story continues below. Advertisement to cries of shame, despicable, and cover-up. 5 Liberal MPs voted against the 3 Conservatives and 1 NDP member to adjourn the meeting, effectively shutting down a bid to have Ms. Wilson-Raybould appear before the committee on Thursday. The meeting was held 1 week after the Liberal majority on the committee blocked an early effort by the opposition to immediately invite Ms. Wilson-Raybould to respond to testimony of the Prime Minister's former Principal Secretary, Gerald Butts, and the Clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Wernick. Up to speed on snc-lavalin, Jody Wilson-Raybould and Trudeau's PMO here. Opinion: every day of additional testimony will further damage the public's already shaken confidence in the Prime Minister's leadership. And the affair damaged as well Mr. Trudeau's reputation abroad. John Ibbotson. For subscribers: British lawmakers reject no deal, Brexit, pave way for vote on possible delay. British lawmakers today rejected leaving the European Union without a deal under any circumstances, paving the way for a vote to delay Brexit to seek a way out of the country's worst political crisis in generations. For subscribers. Story continues below. Advertisement: it went further than the government's own planned motion, which noted that Parliament did not want to leave without a deal on March 29, the date set down in law, but stressed that the default legal position was to leave without a deal unless one was ratified by Parliament. Britain's government will propose tomorrow to seek a delay to Brexit until June 30 if Parliament approves a deal to leave the European Union by March 20, the Speaker said. Brookfield buying majority stake in Oaktree in $4.8 billion deal, creating asset management juggernaut. Brookfield Asset Management says it's buying most of Oaktree Capital Group in a roughly $4.8 billion deal, creating an alternative asset manager that would rival industry leader Blackstone Group in size. The decision by Oaktree, led by distressed debt investor Howard Marks, to sell a majority stake of itself comes after a sustained period in which its stock has underperformed the broader market. The combined businesses will have about $475 billion of assets under management, Brookfield said in a statement. Story continues below. Advertisement: Market Watch Canada's main stock index rose marginally today with strength in healthcare and energy shares. Boosting the healthcare sector was Aurora Cannabis, which surged 13% after naming billionaire investor Nelson Peltz as a strategic advisor for subscribers. Toronto's U.S. stocks also rose on healthcare stocks, and Boeing shares edged upward even as Canada and the United States grounded the company's 737 MAX jets after a fatal crash in Ethiopia. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 148.23 points to 25,702.89. The S. Got a news tip that you'd like us to look into? Email us at tips@globandmail.com. Need to share documents securely? Reach out via Secure Drop. What's popular with readers' story continues below. Advertisement: BC's non-resident-owned property worth more than resident-owned. StatScan reports a new housing report shows the rate of non-residents owning property is higher in British Columbia than in Ontario, and the assessed value of those properties is worth more than those owned by residents. The figures, one industry watcher says, show BC's foreign buyers tax hasn't entirely dampened international interest in the BC housing market. The Statistics Canada report examines non-resident ownership based on whether the single owner or one of the owners of the property does not live in Canada. Newly constructed condos in Vancouver especially attracted the foreign market. 19% of condos built between 2016 and 2017 were owned or partially owned by non-residents. In Toronto, Canada's other hot housing market, that number was 7.6%. Read Xiao Shu's full story here. For detached houses in Vancouver, the value of the median assessment of a non-resident-owned single detached house was $236,000 more, 36.7% higher than the median valued resident-owned property. Photo by Ben Nelms for the Globe and Mail. Ben Nelms, The Globe and Mail. Talking points: no need to offer false balance to anti-vaxxers. The Globe and Mail does stand for freedom of speech and a balance of opinions. But there is no balance in giving a platform to peddlers of unscientific and irresponsible notions, climate change deniers, anti-vaxxers, or those who call the moon landing a hoax. The Globe and Mail, like all responsible media, believes in science and facts. Sylvia Stead, a public editor. Story continues below. Advertisement: it's time to stop pretending RRSPs are a universal retirement savings vehicle. The tax refund you get from an RRSP contribution early in your career could be far less than the tax hit on an RRSP withdrawal in retirement. The ideal contribution to an RRSP is made in a year when your income is higher than it will be in retirement. In other words, the peak career years that boomers are in right now. Rob Carrot, Mr. Ford. Banning cell phones from classrooms is a pointless exercise. Near the end of my third year of teaching, I felt like I was spending all my time policing students instead of building positive relationships. I was chasing the behavior, and that was getting in the way of the actual learning. Jamie Mitchell, public high school teacher in Ontario. Living better. The tax filing deadline will be here before you know it. Here are some tips and traps to keep in mind to avoid penalties and maximize your return. They include: don't forget to file by the April 30th deadline. If your children had earned income in 2018, make sure they file a tax return. Although they won't pay any tax if their income was $11,809 or less in 2018, filing a return will provide them with RRSP contribution room. If you miss reporting any slips, a penalty can apply if you also failed to report an amount in any of the 3 prior years. And if you want to change something on your tax return, wait until you receive your notice of assessment first. Long read for a long commute. American Gods actor Ian McShane can teach you a thing or eight about charisma. Lessons in Charisma, from Ian McShane. Come, on your day off, to the Toronto set of Season 2 of the Amazon fantasy drama series American Gods, based on the 2001 novel by Neil Gaiman. Now streaming. Call the reporter. Love, be insanely handsome, especially for a 76-year-old, even in sweatpants. Being fit helps. So does the tousled head of black and only slightly gray hair. Have several laughs, including a deep chuckle and a great roaring blast. Be a wag on set. Ian has 1,000 stories, and he name drops like a PR pro, says Ricky Whittle, who plays Shadow Moon, human bodyguard to Mr. McShane's American Gods character, in a separate interview. He tells me filthy jokes right before a take, and as I'm trying to hold it together, he'll do this deadpan look to the crew, like, "I'm sorry about this school child." Globe subscribers, read Johanna Schneller's full story here. Ian McShane, photo by Emily Burrell, The New York Times. Emily Burrell, The New York Times News Service. Will I pass my driver's test at 80, like I did at 16? In Ontario, the notice arrives well before your 80th birthday, the dreaded senior's driving test, Roger Legan writes. To give the government credit, they want you to pass. They're not actually testing your driving ability, it's more the mental side of things, but it gets you thinking. You muse about the irony of driving to a driving test and then you pause. If I fail, how do I get home? As I drove into the parking lot, I had this feeling that someone, doubtless a highly skilled professional who admires skill and flair, was watching me from a one-way window in the classroom, so I back in. Why not cover all the bases? We saw you backing your car into the parking spot. Well done. Never seen anyone do that before. Why don't we just give you a pass right now and send you on your way? And, by the way, you look so young, what with all that hair? Maybe I'd hear something like that. Evening Update is presented by SR Slobodian. If you'd like to receive this newsletter by email every weekday evening, go here to sign up. If you have any feedback, send us a note.